And welcome back, everyone. Italk 106.7 FM, the voice of the mountain. I'm your host, Janine Ford. So glad to be talking with Steve Carvajal, our good friend, about all the things that are going on in politics and all the crazy stuff going on here in the White Mountains, too. And Steve has been down chasing Andy Biggs around, doing the security detail and stuff for Andy Biggs and his group running for governor. And Steve, let's talk a little bit about the elections up here in Navajo County. And I would just say the word messy just keeps coming to mind, right?
Well, I think that's a kind euphemism because, well, and I say this honestly, Janine, because we have a situation in our county where we have an election director who really has no idea what she's doing. She doesn't do much, and the election director is a lady named Raylene Richards. But keep in mind that everything that happens in the county is, all these people who work for the county. They answer to one person. They answer to Lurch, Bryan Layton. And if Bryan Layton was any kind of a manager at all, he would be on top of these problems, and they wouldn't be a continuing, cascading plethora of issues.
Yeah.
They just continue, They never go on. Instead, what Layton does is he makes excuses that are not even relevant to the problem. He makes no adjustments. So remember back in the 2024 election when Belinda and I went up and we worked at Pinon up on the Navajo Res, and we came back and we told them, said, look, here's a real serious problem up here. I was the marshal, and so I was talking to all these people as they were leaving. 1 out of 3 people that walked in there was told they'd already voted. Now, some of these people literally, this was for the primary, and this was in July, but they were told, they'd already voted after they'd walked 5 miles. And this is over 60 people had been told this. So when I go back there and we report this to, at that time, to Raylene Richards, and then report it to Bryan Layton for some sort of reconciliation on this, Layton's response was, well, these people are just too stupid to remember they voted. Now, I don't know about you, but I would find that fine.
He didn't say that. Did he say that to you?
No, what he ended up saying, and you can go back and look through the records, look in the August or the early September tapes of Bryan coming out at the Board of Supervisors meeting, said, we've done our investigations, and we found out that these people didn't, in fact, all vote early. So you're saying to me 60-plus people on the Navajo Res forgot they had voted already, when some of them walked in there with their ballot in their hand. And I mean,
that's crazy. And then, see, that's just nuts.
It is. Well, and that's the kind of typical mismanagement we have at our county. And we're focusing on the elections. It goes into much more than that, but at the end of the day, we have a horrible manager who needs to be fired. He needs to be out of here. I mean, this guy has no business doing this. The County Board of Supervisors right now, they need to stand up and do the right thing for the citizens who they work for. They don't work for the county. They work for the citizens who elect them. And they forget this every single time. They get up there and they believe, well, we're taking care of the county. No, you're not taking care of the county. You're supposed to be taking care of us. And you don't do this. And part of taking care of us is getting rid of deadwood like Bryan Layton.
And so you got Raylene Richards and Bryan Layton and all these people.
Yes.
But everything...
was up jumped to the election director. And she has no experience. She has never been trained in any of this stuff. And she's never learned it. She's never taken the time to actually learn how to run an election. So that's why we have this cascading trauma of failures every time we have an election. She has a year before, so we finished the 24 elections. She did nothing in 25. She worked from home most of the time and collected her paycheck. She makes $136,000 a year, folks.
Wow.
As the election director. She didn't even do anything but work at home. Now, that's bad enough. But in that time that she was off, she didn't fix any of the problems. that we have. So in this upcoming election, we had several issues already. And one of them that we found from the 24 election, we just had the primary for the 26 elections here in Navajo County. And we found one of the poll workers found a box of unused ballots from 2024, still where they store all the equipment, and 3 of the what they call the express voting machines that were all boxed up, and they've been left there for over 2 years.
Oh my gosh!
So, or at least the last time they could have been there would have been November of 2024. And so nobody's even picked this up. Now, I want you guys to think about this. You have over 3,000 ballots that are sitting there in this box, blank ballots. So when the poll closes down at the end of the day, when you go and you vote on the election day, which was November 5th last time, and you vote, the polls close at 7 o'clock, and the poll workers, along with members from the county, go in there and help everybody close down the poll. And to do this, there's a number of things they have to do. There's a sheet that tells the inspector and the marshal what exactly needs to be done. And on that sheet is count the number of outstanding ballots. So each poll gets issued a number of ballots. You're supposed to take that number, look at the number of ballots that you have, count those ballots, count the number of electronic votes you have, and then subtract that from or add that to the remaining number of ballots, and it's supposed to equal exactly the number of ballots each one was given. But in this case, we had, for 24's election, nobody closed it out because they left a box of 3,000 blank ballots. Now, the bad thing what that means, Janine, for all of us, is that we have no way of reconciling whether or not somebody didn't take a bunch of those ballots, fill them in, and put them in. Because you cannot tell, once the ballot goes into the box, you can't tell what happens with it.
Wow. Yeah, so much for a chain of custody, they call it, or something?
That's it.
Gosh.
There's no custody. And in the 24 election for the primary alone, which is the only one, Bryan Layton, who kicked me out because we brought up the problem of the 60-plus voters who claimed they'd already voted, and then he told them, yeah, you're just too stupid to realize you already voted, which is just so insulting. I mean, that alone should get that man fired. That is just, you insulted 60 members of our population who you're supposed to represent, and you call them stupid because they couldn't remember that they'd already voted.
Well, and this recent one, you mentioned the ballots that are found in Heber, okay? Then the keys left on one of the drop boxes, the ballots, and then also there are reports that in some of the places where they take votes that people were not requiring ID, driver's licenses, and that's just in this primary that just happened. And so then also the missing mailed ballots that were missing, about 700
Republicans,
and 200 Democrats that were just missing in the mail, the U.S., so they're investigating that down at the in Phoenix, down at the post office. Yeah, they're investigating that. And we weren't the only county that happened to. There were other counties too. So
correct.
We have to get to the bottom of all of these things and not be so messy. But I think it's sad, and I saw in the White Mountain Independent that the county's stance is they blame poll workers,
Yeah.
And how long do you blame the little guys before some heads start to roll up the chain,
Well, evidently it's a long time because this has been going on forever, and Raylene Richards is still there, and Kristen Haddock is still there. So here's the issue. All the poll workers are required to be able to work for a poll at a polling location. They're supposed to be taking some sort of training from Kristen Haddock, who is Raylene Richards' number 2 in the elections department at the county. And so common sense would tell you if you're not getting these responses, and in the 24 primary, we had 9 polling locations out of, I think, 27 that did not fill out, that there was no final tally sheets done, no poll closing sheets done. So there's 0 chain of custody on all those. And that was in the primary. In the general, in November, it was the same. These people did not even bother to close out their polling locations. So we have a complete chain of custody. Now that goes back to a training issue. Kristen Haddock is responsible for training these people. Clearly, they were not trained.
Right.
There was no training here, or they wouldn't be doing this repeatedly, over and over and over again. And you go back to the 2022 election, back to the 2020 election. It's the same thing, Janine. These people at the county who are supposed to be running our elections are just totally inept. They should not be there. If you were running a company and you were responsible for making the payroll for all your employees and everything else, the last thing you would do is continue to carry deadwood, like that people who continue to make mistakes and fail to reach the very basic minimums of their job requirements.
Right.
They should not be there.
And what we need to realize is that we all need to know that now we're shining the light on all these things, making a big deal out of all these things, so that we can fine tune by November, because things are going to slowly get better. We need more people watching, better cameras watching all the time, people watching the chain of custody from both sides, a Republican, a Democrat. You know what I mean? A lot of people, everybody watching everywhere. And we need to make November perfect, because November is a big one, and all of us need to show up for that, right?
That's it. Now, here's the big thing for November. November is going to be a turnout election. Folks, we need every single person who's listening to this radio program to get out and vote. You've got a month to vote early, and that means you're going to get your ballot if you requested an early ballot, which the majority of the people in the county do. If you don't get your ballot, then you're going to call the recorder's office and you're going to talk to Jose Lerma, and his phone number is 928-524-4389. Jose is the chief deputy. It's his responsibility to make sure that you get your ballot, or that you are aware you do not get your ballot if it got lost. We may have a problem with our postal service. This could be, or it could be, there's a number of other problems we don't have time to talk about today. It could be the problem. But on the early balloting side, which is the department run by our good friend David Marshall at the recorder's office, they take care of all the early balloting. And they are at least taking, this is Dave's very first election that he's been in office for. Remember, he was appointed April 15th. So July 21st was his actual first election, and the June 21st is when the early voting started, where he takes over. He's responsible for it, not Raylene Richards. But so when we had these ballots go missing, Recorder Marshall's initial response was immediately to find out what's happening. Why are these people not getting their ballots? And we've isolated some issues, perhaps at the postal office. We don't know yet. But at least he's looking into it, and he is looking at, he's going to go ahead and purchase a system, an electronic system that will call everybody who does not, if we get a return ballot, then, because the ballots cannot be forwarded,
right,
this return system will automatically call you. It'll text you. It'll redial you, constantly let you know you didn't get your ballot. You're not going to get your ballot. Here's where you can do to go vote instead. But we need you people to get out and vote. We have to have big turnout to make changes in this state. And if you like the way that the windmills and solar farms are coming in and destroying everything, we've got some more to talk about that a little bit here later with the soil sampling, which the county, again, is just saying, well, we're already doing it. No, you're not.
Yeah,
you're not doing
and you need that big baseline soil testing, yes.
But getting back to the election, first, if you don't get your ballot in early balloting in November, for the November, you'll start getting your ballot in October, call the recorder's office. The recorder's office is 928-524-4192. And then that's the main number. And then you call Jose Lerma, who is the chief deputy, at 928-524-4389. We have to get people out to vote this time.
Yeah.
You cannot have an effectively run country when only less than 20% of the people registered to vote actually vote.
Yeah, and that's a big thing.
System.
There are too many things at stake this time around, folks, because again, the biggest thing, you've got Katie Hobbs and the state lands lady totally riding with our boards of supervisors that haven't given us any protection to jam all of these wind turbines and solar fields into the White Mountains, and it's terrifying right now. And we need to get this green new lie. It kills me that a lot of, that they say that, oh, we can't do anything, but yet we have identified, and you guys know this, we've done this on the show, so many other counties that have put protections in place, and our county won't. They're kind of riding with Katie Hobbs, and so Katie Hobbs, Chris Mays, Fontes, they all need to go. I mean, they're just dangerous for our state.
Jason White, Daryl Seymour.
And they're not up for election this year.
They're not. But
yeah.
Keep in mind, they go.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to clean house with that stuff later if they can't turn this tide. Right. They keep saying they're going to look at stuff and give us protections, but they haven't. And talking about that and those possible protections, we're going to talk about that coming up next on Italk. And hopefully our election systems will get cleaned up, and I think they will, with us shining a spotlight on all this junk and everybody at the county.
If they don't, then the people need to get together and demand the firing. We don't want his resignation. We want him fired. We want Bryan Layton is the head of all these issues. He's in charge of managing the county, and he's not doing it. So if we have failures in this election, then the people need to rise up and say, we demand a new county manager. Get rid of this hack who's in there now.
I will tell you what he will do for you, though. If you ask him to come out and talk about the great benefits of wind turbines and solar, he'll do that. He'll host a luncheon and do that for you.
I would love, I went to that one that we had at the Arts Alliance where 88 people all against it came out. He lost his ass got chewed completely off on that. And now he's a tall, skinny piece of shit.
Oh, come on, Steve. Be nice.
He's a tall, skinny, subhuman species. And he really barely, how he stood there. I have to give him credit for standing there with that fake-ass smile on his face the whole time while he's being told what a piece of crap he is, and everybody who's sitting there lying to our face with it. Because he was the one sitting there lying right to our face.
Well,
and everybody knew he was lying. He knew we all knew he was lying. And he's still sitting there. So, go to those lunch, folks, and let him know what you think.
Well, yeah, we've all been told we're stupid because we just don't understand. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to take a short break and come back and finish up with Steve. Steve, be nice. Be nice, Steve. Okay, keep it right here. Italk 106.7 FM, the voice of the mountain.